This one is going to the dogs. Crew, let's ranch it up. Good day, everyone, and thanks for riding with us on this all-new episode of the Ranch It Up Radio Show. I'm Jeff Tigger Earhart.
And I'm Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck.
A big thank you goes out to our partners, RanchChannel.com, Transova Genetics, Axiota Multimin and Lactapro, Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the American Gelbvieh Association, Imogene Ingredients, and Pharmatan, Westway Feed Products, Medora Boot and Western Wear, Allied Genetic Resources and Allied Feeding Partners, LivestockMarket.com, EquineMarket.com, AuctionTime.com, RFD TV, Wrangler, and this fine radio station. We've got just kind of a nice, relaxing episode for y'all because we are kind of still in the holiday, right? In the 4th of July holiday weekend. So, Beck, I'm just going to ask you this right out of the chute. Favorite 4th of July memory? Maybe not the favorite, but maybe what's the one that sticks out in your mind the most? You'll never forget this one.
It would involve my family going camping somewhere, and at this location, we were allowed to get fireworks, which usually we can't blow off because there's a drought or something going off, so it was a big deal that we were going to get to go blow these off. Well, lo and behold, my brothers... Yeah, you know what happened? The puck or however it was, something fell over, the whole bag went off, and we were that guy at the place where everyone was supposed to be lighting off their fireworks together, and instead, parents, kids, people were diving behind picnic tables.
You lost the whole works in seconds.
We're talking bottle rockets. You thought a war zone had just happened. They were zipping by our heads.
You've never told me this story before.
It was the last time my dad took us and the kids, or my brothers, to a group together, kind of blow off the fireworks.
So you spent all that money, your folks spent all that money on fireworks for the kids, make everybody happy, and they went off in literally like 18 seconds.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever got fireworks bought for us again.
Okay, that's terrible.
How about you?
Mine was, I guess, the most memorable moment, kind of like yours, kind of a disaster. I was a kid. We were shooting off bottle rockets, and one leaned a little bit too far one way, and we had a broken window in the hay loft of the big red barn, that's on our place. We got that beautiful red barn. And a bottle rocket shot up there, and I just remember all of us kids and mom and dad, and we spent hours combing that, and my dad meticulously, trying to smell if there was a fire. There was no fire, thank goodness, but that was probably the worst 4th of July holiday we ever had. And, of course, one we're not going to forget. This is a really fun episode that we've got lined up for you today. We're talking cattle dogs, and we're going to get to that in just a few minutes here, but I'm going to put you back on the spot. You always liked dogs. You've had them as pets, but until you and I got together is when you really kind of got into dogs. Just admit it.
I'll admit it, there's a lot of truth to that one, because on the ranch I grew up on, we didn't use cattle dogs. Our dog was more or less a watchdog, just barked and let us know when someone came in the yard.
The UPS driver was delivering something.
Yes,
from Amazon.
And before that, otherwise, I had some labs, and we actually raised hunting dogs. So I was more into the hunting aspect versus the cattle dog aspect.
Which I can respect that. A good trained dog is a good trained dog. But this episode, remember when we were talking with Taylor Garcia?
Pretty fun.
This is a good one. So keep it tuned right here to this fine radio station and the Ranch It Up Radio Show. We'll be back after this.
Cattle market reports to various news stories. The Tri-State Livestock News covers it all. Check us out at tsln.com. Subscriptions or advertising, call Tracy Hawk at 406-951-3211. The Tri-State Livestock News, what ranchers read.
It's time now to start adding value to those Gelbvieh and Balancer calves. The American Gelbvieh Association offers a wide variety of DNA tests and delivers its members and customers tools for success within the beef industry. You owe it to yourself by going to gelbvieh.org. Want to add just a little bit of spice to your event, your customer appreciation supper, your banquet, your meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Well, bring in us, Beck and I, as your keynote speakers, hosts, MCs, a host couple. We'll make them laugh, even cry tears of joy. Call us today. Are you looking for the best way to raise healthy, productive beef? Look no further than Westway Feed Products. Westway's liquid supplements support increased forage utilization, efficiency, convenience, and sustainability. With Westway Feed's scientifically formulated liquid feed, your cattle will gain weight faster and stay healthier, ensuring you get the best return on your investment. Visit westwayfeed.com or call 800-800-7517 to learn more. Westway Feed Products, raising the bar in beef production one supplement at a time. Want to add just a little bit of spice to your event, your customer appreciation supper, your banquet, your meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Well, bring in us, Beck and I, as your keynote speakers, hosts, MCs, a host couple. We'll make them laugh, even cry tears of joy. Call us today.
Cattle Battle.
The Ranch It Up radio show. It's the most information packed into a 30-minute program that you can find, and it's your all things ranching newscast. And so glad to be hanging out with y'all. Questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, rants, it doesn't matter. Give us a call or text at 707-RANCH20. That's 707-726-2420. Our email, ranchitupshow@gmail.com. Prowling around social media at Ranch It Up Show. We have heard from several of you wanting to hear more about man's best friend, or could be your worst enemy when it comes to herding cattle. We're talking dogs. Working dogs, herding dogs. Everyone knows that I'm a dog guy. I love working cattle dogs, but like all things, it seems we learn more from our failures than our successes. Now, definitely holds true for dogs. I've worked good ones. I've worked bad ones. I've messed up. I've probably been the bad one. Or was it that I was actually the problem, maybe, and was forcing too much on the dogs and too much on the cattle at that time? Yes, there is a process of acclimation that needs to take place between dog, handler, and livestock. Dr. Taylor Garcia is a beef technical nutrition manager for Westway Feed Products, and we're talking handling fresh cattle right off the truck with dogs, pasture cattle, introduction to dogs, and everything from the bark to the bite. Dr. Garcia, thanks for coming on the program. Let's talk dogs. So give us just a bit of your background, dogs you run today, and then we'll get into the meat of this.
Personally, I've used some Kelpies. I grew up in South Texas where my grandfather, ran some blackmouth curs. But now I run Border Collies, almost exclusively Border Collies. And so I've got two processes depending on the infrastructure I've got. So, for example, when the cattle are in a pen, and let's say...
Are you talking new cattle you just received?
Yeah, cattle that just came in just off the truck. We'll say that they're settled because I don't want to do it immediately right off the truck.
Right.
But let's say they're settled and they're in a piped, well-secured pen. And depending on the number, I'll like to get a group of at least 20 to 50, somewhere in there. And really, you got to have a dog that's got a good handle on them. And what I'll do is I'll kind of go through them, I'll down the dog, and I'll start with my horse and just kind of start moving them around, and then I'll walk my dog up to them. And typically these cattle have never seen a dog, and they're going to be curious about it. And a lot of times the cattle will walk up to the dog, and when the calf, they'll try to smell it, put their head down, and my dog will get a clean bite. And usually there's a group of calves around that one that got educated, we like to say, or got bit on the nose.
Introduction.
And so it's a lot like hot wire. So when a calf walks up and gets shocked, it kind of trains the whole group around them. And so even though one calf got bit, there may have been 4 or 5 calves around it that also kind of jumped away when that dog bit. And so those cattle were just educated. And so once those cattle kind of move off, there'll be another set that just kind of comes in just because of the natural curiosity of the cattle. And so once we kind of go through that, so we've kind of cycled through those calves to where they've all kind of know that dog is going to apply some pressure. So once we've kind of gone through that process, I'll start to apply a little bit more pressure with the cattle. So I'll be a little bit more intentional on where I want the cattle to go. And so
will you be in the herd per se? Will you be, when you say apply a little more pressure, are you actually walking by the way, into the herd on horseback? Is that what you mean?
So I'll actually be standing still. and I'll be commanding my dog to start to stand and walk into the
Okay, gotcha.
and so if there's if the calf don't move off of the dog's pressure when it approaches the cattle, then the dog will be asked to apply a little bit more pressure in terms of a walk up, or maybe needs to go in and apply physical pressure in terms of a bite, and then the cattle will move off in the direction that I'm wanting them to go. It may be as simple as opening up two pens that are adjacent to each other and opening up the gate, and then the objective is to get the cattle to go through the gate using the dog only. And so I'll do that, and then a lot of times I'll either let the gate open if I've got the pen space, or once all the group of cattle have gone through that pen, I'll send that dog back around and then bring them back to me, going through that same gate. So not only am I educating the cattle to the dog and moving off of the pressure, but I'm teaching them to go through the gate. And so a lot of times I'll end on that. And so I'll shut the gate, and if I've got more cattle to do, those cattle will go out into another pen, or I'll go into another pen with another fresh set of cattle and just repeat the process.
So is it important, just like it's important for you working with a dog or a horse, to end that day on a positive note? I know we don't know each other well, but I know that that's important. Is it the same thing with cattle, that when you get a fresh set of cattle, to end the day on a positive, that they had a positive experience, versus they're bouncing off the corral fence and everything's all wired up?
Yeah, I mean, if you can end on a positive note, that is the most ideal situation. Sometimes that doesn't happen. So just like humans, we've got off days. That dog might be having an off day, and so if things are just compiling on each other and it just things are going into a wreck, really just finding a good spot to stop. And because if you try to continue on to end on a positive note, a lot of times you can just end up doing more harm.
Right. Fish are cut bait sometimes, right?
Yeah. I mean, if a win that day is just to down the dog and bring them back to you, and the cattle are still in the pen, I mean, that could just be a win for that day.
So how long would it take, you think? And I know it depends upon the cattle, the dog, and the environment and the feed and everything, but just generally speaking, how long does it take for you to receive a fresh set of calves to a point that you feel that their dog and horse broke to where you can put them out in the hot wire?
It varies, but on average, I would say within 5 days.
No kidding.
Yeah, within 5 days, I'm fairly confident that I could turn those cattle out into a sizable trap and get them to go through the gate on their own, and then from standing at the gate, I could send a dog out or two dogs out and bring that whole herd back through that gate. Once I've got, I can usually get there in about 5 days. Once I'm there, I can pretty much take those cattle wherever. Some of the pasture that we graze, we've actually got to go down a county road, and so it'll just be myself on a horse with two dogs, and I may be moving 200 stockers to go on to wheat or yearlings coming off of wheat.
And you're on a public road.
And I'm on a public county road, and with a major highway just 3/4 of a mile north of me, and so I've got that much confidence just through my training and my dogs that I can move those cattle, just based off of that process that I just mentioned. The other thing that you can do is if you did just drop calves straight off the trailer onto the wheat pasture, you can also dog break out in the pasture. In my opinion, it's a little bit tougher just because those cattle have got a lot more room to run.
It's not quite as a controlled environment that you can control the movement as much, right?
Exactly, and I think it's harder on the dog. The dog's got to cover a lot more ground. You can't break those cattle out into small groups to make sure that each of those calves are educated, and so you may only get a percentage of those calves educated or trained, and so I think it's a lot more work for the dog. They've got to cover a lot more ground to get all the way around the herd. It's a lot harder to move 200 fresh calves that have never seen a dog versus 20 to 50 of them, and so really, us as the handlers, we want to put our dogs in a position to where they're going to succeed. And so, by breaking them off into smaller groups and having a more controlled environment, I think we set up our dogs better for success.
At the end of the day, when we're talking about settling those cattle, and it comes down to gain, we make money on gain. you, and I guarantee you're going to say yes on this, it has paid dividends, I bet, because you did it this way of settling the cattle with the dogs, and you took maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 days to do it at home before you went on wheat pasture, versus the other way, which is the semi backs up on the county road and you open up the pot and away they go and they run. I would bet that you've made enough mistakes that you can say, given all these other variables, if you compare these groups of cattle, you were money ahead and gained ahead, and these cattle gained better, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. By getting them settled, we've essentially gained their trust, so where they're not going to be bouncing off the pins or trying to get away from you. Of course, there's going to be a couple of high-headed ones in there, and we just got to deal with them. But for the most part, our objective is to put pounds on the calves and have healthy animals. And so we're buying lightweight calves, so those 400, 500-pound sale-born calves. And so health is going to be a big proponent of how they do. And so, believe it or not, I can use my dog in multiple ways. And so, from a nutrition aspect, we need those calves to start eating so we can get the proper nutrients in them. And so a way I can do that by using my dogs is by, lining my bunks with hay or feed, and then using those dogs to push those cattle up to those feed bunks to make sure that they're getting their nutrition. And then on the other side of that is using those dogs to identify sick cattle. And what I mean by that, I don't mean the dog's going out there and finding a sick calf. What I mean,
he's not finding the PI for you.
No, he's not finding the PI. But what I mean is that that cattle are a prey animal, and so they're also a herd animal, and so they want to be in the herd, and so by using those dogs, I can see calves that are going to be out of the herd or always in the back. And so when I'm kind of moving these cattle through the pens or through these little pastures with the dog, and I have a calf that's maybe lagging back, he's probably one that I'm going to put on my suspect list and write down his tag and, keep a closer eye on him because, in my personal experience, he's either one I'm going to have to pull within the next 24 to 48 hours, and we're bringing him through the chute, getting a temperature, and a lot of times they're spiking fevers, and we're going to have to treat with antibiotics. So, and that just comes through experience by just seeing a lot of them, and just it helps me identify those kind of borderline suspects. Obviously, if ones are standing out in the pen with their head down, drooling, those are easy. But those ones that are just kind of, maybe subclinical to where they're not showing just those real obvious signs of sickness, those cattle probably may be coming to the bunk but not eating. And so we want those cattle to be eating, because if we can get the nutrition in them, we're gonna increase their overall well-being, and they're going to start gaining faster, and the more efficient we are in that process, the more dollars we get in our pocket.
More than just herding and gathering and driving cattle, a properly trained dog, and human for that matter as a team, can do more than what you may have thought. Dr. Taylor Garcia with Westway Feed Products, thank you so much for visiting with us and sharing some of your thoughts around man's, and in this case, Taylor's best friend. Now, what are your thoughts on dogs on the operation? I'm sure you have all sorts of stories, including wrecks. Well, you know what? We want to hear about them. Fire me an email, ranchitupshow@gmail.com. Text us at 707-RANCH20 or call and leave a message at 707-RANCH20. That's 707-726-2420. Keep it locked right here to this fine radio station, and we'll be back with more of the Ranch It Up Radio Show when we come back. The newest additions to ranchchannel.com. Check out ISA Beefmasters and their sale coming up October 5th. Plus, feeder and live cattle futures, corn, wheat, and bean futures, and more. It's your Farm and Ranch Network on demand. Head to ranchchannel.com. It doesn't matter about what we're talking about in cow herd management. We know that it all stems from nutrition, and I've been telling you all about Pharmatan for a number of years now. Pharmatan from Imogene Ingredients, it's the natural way to boost your cow herd's nutrition, to boost your calf's nutrition, get better breed back, and now that we're in breeding season, improve gut health, improve feed efficiency. Isn't it time to give Pharmatan a try? For more information, just head to pharmatanusa.com. Have y'all tried livestockmarket.com yet? We have updates each and every week brought to us by auctiontime.com. We're all familiar with that one. Try livestockmarket.com. And don't forget, for all your equine needs, head to equinemarket.com. ranchchannel.com. I know many of you have used it to search for your next herd sires. ranchchannel.com. You used it, you loved it. If you haven't gone to it, you need to. Coming soon, market information. Yep. Feeder cattle, live cattle futures, corn, wheat, and beans, updated every 10 minutes at your fingertips. Plus, the additions of products and services, management tips, that information that you've been wanting, and again, all at your fingertips. It's your Farm and Ranch Network on demand, ranchchannel.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Ranch It Up Radio Show. It is that time in the program. We check in with Kirk Donsbach, StoneX Financial Incorporated, going through the numbers and such. So, Kirk, how are you, and what's happening out there?
I'm very well, Tigger. Having a great day, loving this cash news that everybody's talking about. As of Friday, June 28th, August feeder futures closed the week at 259.02.5. That's up $1 on the week, with the CME feeder index up $1.13 at 258.60. That leaves the basis, or the difference, a negative 70 cents versus August futures. August live cattle closed the week at 185.27.5. That's up $2 on the week, with, wait for it, cash trading 189 to 94 in the south and 198 to $2 in the north. Incredible. The 5-area weighted average was down $1.19 at 193.92, leaving the basis versus August futures a positive $8.49. So very wide basis, all considered. Weekly slaughter was 609,000 head. That's 11,000 head less than the prior week and 42,000 head less than the same week last year. Choice boxes closed up 393 at 326.32 on the week. That leaves the estimated spot packer margin near a positive $50 a head. So even with all those prices, the packers are still black. That's very good news. To wrap this up, December corn closed the week 421.5. That's down 31 3/4 on the week. Obviously, we had a very bearish USDA report that put acreage at 1.1 million acres more than the trade expected, stocks at 1.2 billion bushels more than expected, and carry out over 2 billion bushels by the end of the year.
Mark Van Zee with LivestockMarket.com. Coming up this Wednesday, July 10th, we have our small livestock online auction. Bidding opens at just $10 a head, no reserves. All lots will sell. 100 head of sheep, goats, and pigs, plus 575 bales of hay. Featured lots include 27 Dorper open replacement ewe lamb, 65 pounds, springborn from DeFade Livestock in Snyder, Texas. 21 Dorper open replacement ewe lambs, 80 pounds, fallborn from DeFade Livestock. 8 purebred Katahdin ram lambs, 55 pounds, born late February through early March. They're pasture-fed with salt and mineral from Yoder Farms in Fillmore, Missouri. 7 purebred Katahdin open replacement ewe lambs, 55 pounds, born late February through early March from Yoder Farms. 8 Alpine Nubian bucks, 80 pounds. The bucks were born this year. One of the bucks out of a top-producing doe. These guys are very strong, sustainers, and very easy to handle from Hartman Farms in Edgewood, New Mexico. 6 Nigerian pygmy buck kids, 14 to 15 weeks old. Some pulled, some have blue eyes. See the individual pics online from Hinton Farms in Thrall, Texas. 3 Hamp Yorkshire show pigs, 2 gilts, 1 barrow, selling on individual lots by their homebred boar Radio out of Original, Never Before, and Vendetta on a non-showbred sow. They're wide, stout, and correct from Hometown Genetics in Spokane, Washington. 1 purebred Duroc boar, 275 pounds. He's 6 months old. He's well built and structured, level body, would make a great breeding boar from Remington Hills Ranch in McCook, Nebraska. Featured hay lots include 21 tons of large square alfalfa grass mix. It's 3x3x8. First cutting, 800 pounds. Pretty clean hay, few weeds from Wagner Forages in Kankakee, Illinois. 64 bales of large round alfalfa, selling on 2 separate 34 bale lots. It's 4x5, net wrapped, first cutting, 1,000 pounds, 14% moisture from Grunthal Auctions in Nitchie, North Dakota. And 64 bales of large round grass, selling on 2 34 bale lots. 4x5, net wrapped, 850 pounds, 2024 hay, no weeds, 13% moisture from Grunthal Auction Service. And 400 small square alfalfa clover grass bales, selling on 2 200 bale lots. It's first cutting, very grassy. It's been sprayed with preservative from JB Farms in Williamsburg, Iowa. Bidding is currently live, but all lots will sell the morning of Wednesday, July 10th. Got sheep, goats, or pigs to sell? Regular small livestock auction second Wednesday of every month with hay sales every Wednesday on livestockmarket.com and auctiontime.com.
I tip my hat to you, from one legend to another.
And before we say fare thee well, we want to give a big tip of the hat to each and every one of you. It's still the 4th of July weekend, so get out and enjoy. Take a little time off, go fishing, go to a rodeo if nothing else, but have a wonderful weekend. And now that's going to wrap it up for today. A big thanks from our crew to yours, starting off with Dr. Taylor Garcia with Westway Feed Products, Shay Warner with Casual Cattle Conversations, Kirk Donsbach, StoneX Financial Incorporated, Mark Vanzi with LivestockMarket.com, and the boss lady, Rebecca Warner, a.k.a. Beck. A big thank you goes out to our partners, RanchChannel.com. Check out RanchChannel.com, by the way. Markets are on there now as well, so check it out to get that updated market information. Transova Genetics, Axiota, Multimin, and Lactapro, Stockman's Livestock Exchange, the American Gelbvieh Association, Imogene Ingredients and Pharmatan, Westway Feed Products, Medora Boot and Western Wear, Allied Genetic Resources and Allied Feeding Partners, LivestockMarket.com, EquineMarket.com, AuctionTime.com, RFD TV, Wrangler, and this fine radio station. And crew, so glad y'all came with us one more time as we ranch it up. Be sure to follow and like us on Facebook at Ranch It Up Show. Our email is ranchitupshow@gmail.com. You can call and you can text us 24/7 any time of day at 707-RANCH-20. That's 707-726-2420. Spread the good word and join us again next week where it's always Tigger and Beck approved. Stay ranchy and ranch it up.